Hi Data Fam. Today I am going to be cleaning a data set, popular FIFA 21 data set with Excel functions and other features in Excel. So before now, I have uploaded a video of how I cleaned this same data with Power Query. So I'm going to be adding a link so that you can watch it if you want to learn how to clean this data with Power Query. All right, so let's dive in. Now, when it comes to cleaning data with Excel functions, what you need to have in mind is that your thought process actually matters. It's more like a building blocks of the functions that you have learned, all right? So it's just left for you to be able to think of how you can nest these functions to achieve what you want. So let's dive in. So the first thing I like to do is to create a copy of the data set that I'm trying to clean so that I can always fall back on the original one if there is something I need to do, okay? So I'm just going to create a copy here, then I will insert it here. Okay, so there are some discrepancies with this data set that I've already identified before now. So I'm just going to be diving into each of these columns that I know that are definitely dirty. But if you are starting out with data cleaning, you need to be able to check in each of these columns and be able to identify the columns that you actually want to clean, the columns that have these discrepancies. Okay, so I have created a copy that I'm just going to name this to copy. Good. Copy. Okay, so the first thing I noticed is that the values are not well fitted in these columns. So I'm just going to use my shortcut key Alt-HOI to adjust them, and this will make sure that the values are well fitted. So the widths are well fitted, but the height are still large. Okay, so this means that they are actually wrapped. So I'm just going to unwrap them here to make sure that they are good. All right. So the first column I'm going to be dealing with is the name column. So I have the name column here. This is the FIFA data. So this contains information about the players. I provided more information about this data in the previous video. Okay, so this is the name, this is the long name. So let us apply a filter to be able to have an overview of what is in each of these columns. So I'm just going to use Alt-AT to apply filters. That's a shortcut key that I would use. So let's look at this name. I actually need either of these names. I either need the long name or the short name. So I'll go for the long name. So I don't need this column, right? But let us see what we have here first. So looking at this long name now, you can see that some are having some unusual characters here, and that means it is dirty. Can you see it here? So we need to make sure that we get rid of this one and fill it in with the correct values or the correct letters. Okay, but that is going to take a lot of time, right? So one thing that you have to also have in mind is that you have to be able to pay keen attention to your data. Now let's go on. Looking at this player URL now, I can see the names of the players here, and this looks like it will have me do less work than this one. For this one, I have to replace every single unusual character with the correct one. So that means I can extract the names that I need from this column, and I don't need these ones anymore. So I'm just going to select this and shift select to delete these three columns because I don't need them, right? I only need this one, and I don't even need everything. I want to extract the names from this. Can you see? So it makes it easier for me to work with, unlike that one, right? So one thing I also like to do when I'm cleaning data is, especially with column that can get messy, I like to copy the column and I'll take it into another sheet to deal with it before I bring it back. Okay, because if I split this now, it's going to override all of this, and even if I create space for it, it might not be enough. So I just like to do it separately, deal with it there, come back and fill it in here. Okay, I want to extract these names here. So let me just go ahead to do that. So I'm just going to go to text to columns. I want to split them, right? Then I will go to, instead of going to delimited and using the slash as the delimiter, if I use the slash as the delimiter now, there are going to be lots of columns, all right? There are going to be lots of columns, and I'll just have to pick this one from it, but that can take some time. So I'm just going to go to fixed width so that I can adjust the width that I want it to start extracting from. So I say fixed width, then I go to the next, and here I will now adjust it to where I want it to be. So I want it to be right before the names here, right? After this one. So I'm just going to come here this line that looks like a ruler, I'm just going to take it to the edge here and drag it. Can you see? I'm just going to drag it to here. If I drag it here, it will affect some names. So I'm just going to be on the safe side and drag it to this place. Can you see? So it's going to split from here. Then I go to finish. Can you see that it has splitted it? So now I have the names and these numbers here. Okay, if you look at this now, you'd see that all of them have this number slash, this number and slash. Every single value has that. So that is a pattern. So you need to be able to identify pattern in your data while you are cleaning. Okay. So I can see that pattern. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to copy one of these like this. I'm going to copy this. Okay. Then I'll just select this and do Control F. Then I'll paste it here. So I'm going to replace this with what? Nothing. I'll replace all, everything. Then I'll replace this one that is remaining, this slash before some of the names. So I'm just going to replace slash also with nothing. Can you see? So now I have the names, but these names still have what? They have a dash in between. So I'm going to come here and replace that dash also with a space. If I don't put anything here, the names will be meshed together. You don't want that. So I'll replace them with a space so that there are spaces in between these names. Then I'll go to what? Replace all. It has replaced every single dash here. And now I have the names. The only thing that is left for me to do is what? Is to actually change them to a proper case so that they can start with a capital letter. So I'm just going to use the proper function. Then I'll select this and click enter. So that has changed it for me. Then I'm good to go. Can you see? Perfectly cleaned. What I need is I need to take this back to my original data, right? To this place. But I don't really need this one again. I don't need this. I already used it for what I needed to do, right? So I'm just going to delete this one. Then I'll come here, copy this one and paste it there. Now you cannot copy and just paste directly because this one has underlined formula. So if I copy it and paste it there just like that, it is going to bring in error or wrong values. So I'm just going to copy this and paste as values. Pasting as values means that you're saying paste only the values without the underlying formula. So I'm just going to come here, you're going to right click, then you go to this paste option here. Can you see paste values? Then you click on paste values. So the names have been pasted. So this one is still seeing it as a link, and that is because we pasted it in the player URL column. So I'm just going to use the format painter to make sure that this is the same as the others. So I'll just pick either of this one, go to the format painter and apply to this one, and we are good. So I can come here and rename this to player name. Okay, good. All right, so moving on, we'll go on to this column which has this unusual character here. So this is actually the overall rating of the player. So we're just going to remove this and that's it. Then we go on to this club. Now this club column actually has a lot of unusual characters. So what it means is most of these clubs are not correctly spelled. So instead of the actual letters, they are having some unusual letters in them. Can you see something like this and like this? So I explained how I cleansed this data in the Power Query edition of this video. I'm not going to be touching this column now because I don't want this video to be too long. But it's a very simple thing to do, okay? So what you just need to do is you need to find out the correct spelling of these clubs that have these discrepancies. So you just use your filter to check the clubs here, to pick them one after the other. You copy the club name into Google, then look for the exact spelling. Now, there is a pattern in this. So for example, this one that has A with this kind of character here can actually mean A. So this is not the only club that has this kind of character. So what you just do is you replace this character in all the columns with A, and you solve that of this club and even other clubs, right? So you do the same for others as well. So if you find out what this one means for this exact club, you can replace all the values, values where this one applied to the correct letter. Now, the keyboard, your keyboard does not have these characters in them. Well, I can't be certain, but most keyboards don't have these characters in them. So what you have to do is you just look for the one that you're using for your sample. You copy this character from it. So when you find out the replacement, you just paste this in your find. So let me just show you. Just use your Control F to find. Can you see? So you copy it from that value, you paste it here, then you replace with whatever it is that you want to replace it with. And that's it. That's what you will do for each of those characters, and you're good. Okay, so let's move on to the next important columns, which is this contract column. Okay, so let's look at what we have in this contract column. So if I look at this filter here, you would see that the contract is from a particular year to another year. So if you scroll down, you would see that some players are actually on loan. Can you see? They are on loan, and some are actually free. That means this column needs to be taken care of. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to first of all create a category for this contract, so that I have a column containing contract, loan, and free. This column would actually have the categories of players. So this will help me to actually be able to analyze this and say, this is the number of players that are on contract, this is the number of players that are free, and the number of players that are loan. So I'm going to deal with that first before I come back to deal with the rest of it. So again, I like to copy here and take it into a new sheet so that I don't mess my data up. So I just paste it here and I work with it here. So what do I want to do? I said that I want to create categories. So if it has this kind of value, which is from a particular year to another particular year, that is contract. Okay. Then if it has load in them, let me apply the filter. So to apply filter, I use Alt A-T. So if I click on this now, I'll see what I have. So if it has loan in them, then return loan. If it has what? Free, like this, where's the free? Then return the actual sell value. So what comes to your mind? You got it, the if function. But in this case, I'm going to be using the if function because I have multiple criteria that I want to work with. The if function, you can have multiple criteria in there too, but you have to nest it. But here it can be direct, so I'm going to be using the ifs. So now what I want to do is I want to say if it has what? This sign. This sign is what I will use to be able to pick those that are contracts. So I want to say if it has this sign, then give me what? Give me contract. Now, for me to be able to check if it has this sign, I cannot use the if function directly. I need to be able to use the find function. So the find function will check if it has that sign first. That's the first thing I want to do. So I'm going to use the find function now. Equals to find. I like to write it in caps. Find, open your bracket. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this, okay? Then within what? Within here, then I close it. Click enter. What happens? If it has a number, then it actually has this sign. Now the find function gives me the position of a particular letter or a particular character in a value. It only gives me position. It will not return true or false. And you know that for the if function, it needs true. It needs a value that will return true or false, or function that will return true or false. So what do I need to do? I need to use the isNumber function. The isNumber function will actually help me to check if the value that this find returns is a number or not. Now bear in mind that if this find does not see this character in here, it's going to return an error. Okay, so if it returns true, then it should supply that to the if function. So like I said, I'll use the isNumber and say, okay, if this is a number, now this is going to check if it is a number. Remember, isNumber is going to check if it is a number. Find is going to return the position of this. What does that mean? That means it is checking if it actually has this value. Click on enter. What is it? True. That means it has that value. Now, if this is true, what do I want? I want it to return contract. What function will I use to do that? The ifs, like I said. So I'm saying ifs. What is our logical test? This is the first logical test, which is what is going to check if this is true. Remember that the isNumber is responsible for checking if it is true. The find is responsible for checking if it has this. Okay, so this is definitely the very first logical test. Now, what is it going to return if all of this is true? Return what? Contract. So what's type in contract? Now that cycle has ended. Okay, sorry, I used the if. It should be ifs. Should be ifs. Okay. So now this cycle has ended. Can you see logical test one is this? Value if it is true is what? Contract. Now let's go on to the second logical test. What else are we checking for? We've checked for contract. We want to check for what? For loan. So we want to check that if it has loan, then return loan. That means we are going to use the same format because we want to check if it has loan. So I'm going to say that this number again, is number, find what are we looking for? We're just following the same format. We're looking for what? Loan. Now, loan in this column actually starts with a capital letter. The find function is case sensitive. If you start loan with a small letter, it's not going to check it. It's not going to see it. Okay. So loan. So if it has loan, remember that this is number will return true. So this is our second logical condition. It's checking for this, right? So what should you now return? Return what? Loan. That means if it is true, what should you return? Return loan. That means the people, the players are on loan. Okay, comma. The third logical test, which is what we are checking if it is free. And the free is exactly free. It's not like it is inside a particular value. It is exactly free in that column. So we are just going to say if it is what? Free. So we just select this and say if this is equals to free. That's all. Then it should return what? We can say return free or return whatever you find here because definitely it's going to be free. So let's just select this. Then we close it. So we are done with the ifs cycle. This is our first logical test to check for contract. This is our second logical test to check for loan. And this is our third logical test to check for free. So let's it's saying that the argument is too small. Let's see what we have. So this is trying to find the loan. Okay, here we do not specify where it's going to check for it. Can you see within this? Good. So that is it. All right. So let's now double tap and see what we have. So I'm just going to apply the filter here again. Alt AT is going to disappear. So I'll do it again. Alt AT. So let me look at this now. What do we have? Contract free loan. They have been categorized. So what do? We'll just copy this and go and paste it in our original data. So I'm just going to give it a new space here. So let's insert. Okay, yes. So now let's bring that here, right? And remember, you have to paste as what? As values because it has underlying formula. So I've copied this and bringing this here and I'll paste as values. Control Alt V. You select values and you click on OK. So we're just going to name this to, let's say, contract type. Good. So if we look at this now, we can see contract loan. So let's try and cross check. So if I click on free, definitely to be those that are free here. Okay. So if I click on loan, they would see that it is those that actually are on loan. Can you see? So we are good to go. All right. So let me just clear this filter. We are good to go. Now let's go back to this. I want to do something. Okay. I want to be able to separate the contract, when the contract begins and when the contract actually ended. So I'm just going to get rid of this. I don't need this again. So I'll use Control minus to delete a column. Okay. So I want to have contract begins and contract ends. If you look at this column now, I actually have some that are on loan. Okay. And they have the year here. So what I want to do now is that for those that are on loan, I want the year the loan actually started to be in the contract begins column. And in the contract end column, I'm going to also have the loan year plus 1. Why do I do this? Because when I made my research, I discovered that the average number of months that a player would spend in the FIFA, some spend 3 months, 6 months, but averagely it is a year or 6 months. But I'm going to be using a year, right? So what I want to do now is that I want to extract this year. I want it to be in the contract begins column. Then in the contract ends column, I'll now have this year plus 1. Do you understand? I hope you understand. So I have contract begins, which is this year, contract ends, which is this one here. Then the same column for contract begins, which should also have what? The loan begins. So this is contract slash loan begins. Then this is contract. So I'm just going to copy this. This is contract slash loan what ends. You know that this column now contains contract, contains loan, contains free. Okay, contains free actually. So what I want to do now is that I want to actually get rid of the free that is there, because I really do not need the free column again, okay, for what I want to do. So what I'm just going to do is that I'm just going to get rid of the free and just use my control find and just say, okay, free should disappear. So I want free to disappear. So I'm just going to replace all. That's disappeared. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if we still have free. So I'm just going to search for free here. No free. Okay, so trust me, it does not affect anything. All right, the only thing is I'm going to have empty cells in my contract begins and my contract ends, which you shouldn't even bother about, because for those that are free, you know, there's a category that already takes care of that. For those that are free, definitely there's nothing like free begins or free ends, right? So don't bother about that. Let's now extract this contract begins and contract ends. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this one first, this one that I have here. Okay, so I'm now going to split this column so that they can be in separate columns, right? So I'll go to text to columns, then delimited, and next, then we finish. Okay, so it will be splitted. So let's see what we have here. Can you see? So this one is actually supposed to be the contract begins, but we still have some discrepancies here. Can you see? But let's name this to contract ends so that we don't get confused. So this is actually contract / loan ends. But remember that we've not taken care of this contract / loan ends. We've not taken care of the loan ends yet. Now what we want to do is we want to actually create a new column for contract begins so that we can deal with that one. So this is for contract begins. Okay, begins. Good. Now what do we want to do? I want to extract the contract year, should be here, and for the loan I want to extract only the year here, so that this column will now contain contract begins and this year for the loan. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to be using my function. Now let's think, what do we have in this loan that is not in this one that we can use as our criteria? Looking at the loan, that there's a lot of things here. Okay, I can say that, okay, if it has this comma, then that means it is loan, right? Then give us the year after the space, after the comma. We are using this comma as a benchmark to pick this year. So how do we check if it has comma? We use the find. How do we pick the year? We use what? We use the mid. How will the mid know where to start from? We use the find again. Now let's see it in action. So we want to say that if it contains comma, then definitely give me that year in the loan, otherwise return this directly, right? That's what I want to do. So I'm going to say if. We use the if because it is just two logical tests that we are checking for, right? So if it can find comma, so remember we use our is number and our find function to check if it has comma. So what are we looking for? We are looking for comma. Where are we looking for it? Within what? Within this, right? So close the bracket and we close it again. So if this is true, then what should we return? Then return the middle of the value. I mean the year in the value. So how do we check for the year? The mid function. The mid is asking for what's the text? The text is this, right? This cell right here. Then where is it going to start from? Now I want to say that start from wherever you see what? Wherever you see comma. Start from wherever you see comma. Where is comma? What will give us the position of comma? The find. Right? The find will give us the position of comma. So we want you to start from where comma is, right? So we use the find to get the position. Remember that find will return a number for us, which is the position of a particular letter. So text is mid is asking us what start number. So we use the find and say, okay, whatever this find returns is where you should start counting from. Now find is asking what you want to find the comma. Within what? Within this. Then close it. Now, mid, as we have supplied the text, which is where you should check for, then where it should start from is whatever this one gives, right? Then the mid is asking for the number of characters that you want to check for. Now, the year actually has how many characters? 4, right? It has 4 characters. So if I type in 4, it will give me, remember that there's a space before 2020, there's a space before the year. So if I type in 4, it will give me that space, and 2020, it will not give me that last letter. I think I should even copy and paste the sample here so that you will see. Let me just leave this here. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this here for now. Don't worry about this. So I want to go and pick a sample. I want to pick a sample of the ones that have loan, so that we can look at it while we are working with it. So let's just pick a sample. Let's pick this one. So I'm just going to copy this. Then I'm going to paste it here so you just see it. Good. So we are looking at it now. So let's go back to our function, our formula. Let me bring this very far so that the formula will not block it. Good. Now, looking at this now, let's come here. I think it is clearer in the formula by here. So the value if true. Now we are saying that look for the middle, right? Now the middle should now start counting from where it starts from. Start from whatever find gives you, right? And give me 4 letters from that. I'm saying that now look at this one here. I'm saying that check for comma. The position of comma, then give me 4 letters after that. But before that comma, there's a space here. There's a space in between here, right? So what we can do, we can say, okay, when you find this, then add 1 to when you start counting. When you add 1, so it's going to check for comma. Comma will probably give, let's say 8, then plus 1, that's 9. So it will start counting from here instead of this comma, then return 4. Then we click enter. Okay, yeah, it's giving us a correction. That means we need to add one more parenthesis. So let's add one more parenthesis. The parenthesis is for this if. Then we click on enter. So it's giving us false. Why? Because we've not specified what it should return, right? So this is the logical test. This is what this is what it should return rather. It should return this. Now what of value if false? So we've said it should return this here. So what of the value if false? That means if all of this is false, then return whatever you see here. Then we'll close it. Click enter. Can you see that it returns 2024? Why? Because this one does not have comma. Okay? So just try it over and over again until you get it. Then we'll double tap to apply to the rest. Now let me tell you, instead of putting a comma here, instead of putting a +1 here, you can actually try and get rid of this space in this column before you now work with it. So you don't have to put a +1. This space before this one, this year is the reason why we added +1. So if you come here and you now do find and replace, you replace comma space with only comma yes. So you now have to put +1 here, but I've done that already. Okay, so click on enter. Now let's now go and check the ones that have loan. Let's see if it has extracted here for us. So let's just pick loan, click enter. Can you see that it has picked the year for us? But it has picked the space because we said +1. So that means we need to do plus what? +2. So it started from what? The space. That is why we are having a space there. So let's go back to now do what? To do +2. So let's clear this filter, come back here, and we just put +2. Okay, click enter. So let's apply it to the rest and check again. So let's come here and check for loan. I hope you understand what I'm doing. What do we have? We have the year. Okay, can you see that we have the year? The rest is giving us 0 because this is actually, remember that this is for the free. Don't worry about this one, okay? So Ctrl Z, let's go back. So this is our contract begins and this is our contract ends. This is contract / loan begins. Remember that we've already dealt with the loan. So I'm going to use Ctrl top arrow key to take it to the top. This is contract / loan begins now. I hope you're following. Okay, so this is contract / loan ends. Remember that for the ones that have their loan here, we actually want to add 1 to this one. Okay, now let's deal with it. This is the real contract slash loan ends. So now we want to add one to the loan begins here. Okay, just for the loan begins, we want to add one to it here. That we are now going to come here. Now this is the real data. This is the contract slash loan ends that we had before. This is the contract slash loan begins that we have worked with. Now this is the new contract slash loan ends. Why? Because we want to add one to the ones that have loan here. Remember what we want to do, right? So what we're just going to do, we are going to say that if it has the comma again, okay, if its number again, find comma. Where are we checking for comma? This one. Oh, this is the main one that we are checking for comma. The ones that have comma are the ones that are on loan. We want to add one to the contract to the loan begins to get the loan ends. Don't forget what we are trying to do, okay? So this is the logical test. If it has this comma, then what should you do? Add one to contract slash loan begins, comma, this plus one. Otherwise, just return this. I don't know if you understand. Okay, let me explain again. Now, if you can find comma in this one, what we are just trying to do is to use this one to check the ones that are on loan, because we can't use this, so as to be careful. We can only use this one. This one has comma, this one does not have comma, so this one cannot really differentiate the ones that are on loan for us, but this one can. So that's why we are using this to get our logical test. We are saying that if this one has comma, then add one to the contract slash loan begins, so that the ones that have their start loan year here, we can add one to it to get the loan ends. Otherwise, then just return the contract slash on loan ends value that we have here before. I hope you understand. Okay, so I'll click on, I would close the parentheses and enter. Can you see that it returns 2021 for me, which is the original contract slash loan end? This one is for contract. It has returned it. Okay, but the ones that have loan, they will not add one to it. Now let me filter here so that you understand. So let us pick the one that have loan here. You will now see what we have done. Okay, now look at it now. You know that this one is empty. Why? Because we've not actually extracted the contract slash loan ends here. This one definitely has contract slash loan. This one definitely has loan begins because of what we have done with the formula here. Now this one, we now use this one to add one to this to get the contract, to get the loan ends. I hope you understand. Okay, so let me now take this back. Let's remove the filter. So what do we do now? We now have our contract loans begins, our contract loan ends column. So what we have to do is to just copy them and paste as values, and we are good to go. Okay, so I'll just go and create space for these two in the column, in the data here. So I don't need this anymore, right? I don't need it anymore. I've already gotten what I want from it. So I'm just going to delete this, control minus, or I'm just going to use the delete key. And I'll add new one more column. So to insert, I can use the shortcut key Alt HIC. Good. So I can bring those ones here. Are you with me? So I'll just come here. I would take this, shift, take this, then I'll copy. I'll come back here. Then what do? I will just paste as values. Right click and paste as values. So for those that are on contract, I have the contract begins, the contract ends. For those that are on loan, I have the loan begins, the loan ends. That is it. I hope you understand. Okay. So let's move on to the next column that has discrepancy. So I'll come here and delete these ones. I don't need them anymore, right? So shift this, then I'll just do control minus. Then I don't need this one too. Good. So let me come here. What do I have? I have the height column and the weight column that I need to deal with. So what is wrong with these columns? Now, one of the things that you need to be able to identify to be sure that your data is clean is to check if they are of the same format. Now, if I look at this height column, some values are in centimeter and some values are in feet. The ones that are actually in centimeter can remain as centimeter. but the ones that are in feet needs to be converted to centimeter. So they have to be in the same format. And another thing that we need to do is we need to be able to actually remove the unit type so that the data type can be numerical. Okay, so now let's go and deal with it. So let's take it out of here, control copy. Let's come and deal with it here, control paste. Now what do we do? Let's see what we have in there. What I'm going to do first is to get rid of that centimeter. I know for a fact that there is centimeter, so I'm just going to get rid of that centimeter. Control F, centimeter, cm, replace with nothing. Good. So I have only the value, right? I've replaced that. I have only the values. So now let's look for a pattern that can help us. Okay. What pattern? How can I differentiate both? This one has what? Quotation and something like quote, single quote and double quote. This one has like single quote and double quote. Why the one that is in centimeter does not have anything, right? So I can use my if and my find again and say that if they have this, then they should be converted to centimeter. Okay. Now I'm going to be using a combination of the if function, the find function, and the write function or the mid function. So I want to be careful. I want to get rid of this one so that whenever I use the write function, I don't have to battle with this one again. This write quote, this double quotation mark. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to use the find and replace. But sometimes this quotation mark that you see here might not be the same as that of the keyboard. So what I like to do is I like to be on the safe side. So what I'll just do is I'll just select one and just copy it. I'll just use one as my scapegoat. So I'm just going to select one here that I can use. So I'll just come here and copy this. Copied it. So let me clear the filter. So I can now use my control find, control V, then I'll replace with nothing. Okay, so they will be gone. They are just 40. Okay, so let's look at it. They are gone. So we are left with only the values on the right side, right? Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to say that if it contains this here, then it should be converted to centimeter. Now, how do I convert from centimeter? So from my research, I discovered that this is actually feet and this is inches. So for me to be able to convert both by, for me to be able to combine both and convert them to centimeter, I have to do 5, the value on the left, multiplied by 30.48 centimeters. So 1 foot is actually 30.48. So this one will now be this on the left multiplied by 30.48. Then this on the right is in inches. So I have to do this multiplied by 2.54. Then I'll add them together. So this multiplied by 30 plus this multiplied by 2.54. That's what I want to do. So how do we now interpret that and make use of our function? So I want to say that if it contains this quotation mark, that means that will be applied to only these ones. So if it contains this quotation mark, then it should be the value on the left multiplied by 30.48 plus the value on the right multiplied by 2.54. That's it. So let's see it in action. So I'll just come here. Now let's copy it again so that we can have something to look at. So let me just pick one again and copy it somewhere so we can always look at it while we are working with it. So I'm just going to select one and just copy that. So let me just remove the filter and paste it somewhere. So let's just paste it here so we can see it. This is a sample of what we are dealing with. Okay, so we are saying equal sign if this number again. Okay, find, remember that is what we are using to check if they have a particular value. Find what? Find this single quote. I've typed in the single quote. Can you see it's inside here? Find this where within this. They will close it. Okay. If it is true, what should happen? Then the left of this. So we use our left function. Then left. Pick the left of this. Okay. Now you know that if you do not specify this, the left function will automatically pick only the first one. So we are good. Then the left of this should be multiplied by 30.48. Right? Plus. So let's just put this in parentheses so that it will not affect our arithmetic operation. So all of this will give me a particular value to multiply 6 times or whatever value is there times 30.48 plus. Now let's deal with the right one. Plus the right, which is what we are picking this. Now the right is asking for number of characters. Now I can easily say 1, right, and it will pick this 4 times this. But what of those that have 2 values at the end? You know, there are some that have like 5 foot 17 inches. They have 2. So what do we do? So we can say just subtract 2 from the length of character. You know that the length function will give us the number of characters that we have. For example, this one is to give us 3. For those that have extra, they will give us 4. So I'm saying that the number of characters that you should pick from the right is the length minus 2. Why did I say minus 2? Because the first character, if you look at the pattern, the first character here is definitely just 1, right? It's always 1, 5 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and so on, right? Then we now have this character in the middle. So that makes it 2. So after you now subtract that 2, whatever it is that you now see there should be what you would extract for the right. I hope you understand. Okay. So we are going to say length of what? Of this minus what? Minus 2. Then we'll close it. So this one has picked the right for me. Then I'm multiplying the right with what? Remember that I'm multiplying the one on the right with 2.54. Then let's put it in parentheses as well. Okay. So what is going to happen? This one will give me a value. This one will also give me a value. So they will now be added together to give me what? The conversion of the foot and inches to centimeter. Now this is what? Value if true for my if function, right? For my if function. Can you see that if true is both? So what if it is not true? That means what if it's not saying this one that you specified? Then just return this because this one is already in centimeter. Then we'll close our if function. Then we'll click enter. So can you see that it has returned this one? Now let's be sure that it had actually applied it to the one that have this one. So let's just go and filter and pick a few of those ones to be sure that it actually has been converted. So let's just pick a few of this one and let's pick the one that actually has 2 values at the end like this one. Click on OK. So can you see that they have been converted? So I don't know why my Excel is having this, but let's just focus. So can you see that they have been converted, but they are having decimals and we don't want to work with the decimal. So we need to round it up. Let's round up the decimal. So let's just clear the filter and go back to the very first value here. So now let's now apply the round function so that it will round whatever is coming from here. So we're just going to put the round function here. The round function will round it up for us. Round, open bracket. So we are rounding all of this. Then we'll put our comma in how many places? 0 because we don't want anything. Okay, click on enter. So let's apply it to the rest. We've dealt with the ith column. Now what is left for us to do is what? Is to copy and paste as what? As values. Okay, copy this, right click and paste as values, right? We're good. So this is height. We can now come here and say height. Then we'll put centimeter in bracket so that we can tell whoever is looking at this data that this is in centimeter and we are good. So the format is good. Now it's actually similar to what is wrong with the weight function as well. So let's take the weight function to our workshop and deal with it. So let's just bring it here. weight, then I can get rid of this one. I don't need them anymore. Just use our control minus. Then we can delete this one. Let us check for a pattern. Remember, it's all about finding patterns that can help us to clean this data and the thought process. Okay, so you need to be able to think of how you can approach some certain problems when it comes to data cleaning. Okay, so let's look at what we have. So some are in kg, quite all right, and some are in lbs. And we need to make sure that they are all in the same format. Is either we convert from lbs to kg or for kg to lbs. So let's convert from lbs to kg, which is from pounds to kilograms. We need to multiply the ones that have pounds with 0.45. That is how we convert it to kilogram. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to first of all get rid of lbs for those that have lbs. Then I would now use kg as my criteria to deal with the lbs, okay, to deal with the pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the find and replace lbs with nothing. Okay, so I'll replace it with nothing. Then I'm left with only values for those that have lbs, right? So let's check. Let's see what we have. Good. Can you see that they've gone? Okay. Can you see? So we only have kg. All right. So now let's now deal with them using the if function. So what we're going to do is going to be very simple. We're going to say if it contains kg, then just return kg. Then just return the value that has kg. But if it does not contain kg, then multiply the value that you see there, which is of course the pounds, times 0.45. That's it. Very simple. So we're just going to use the if function and say if this contains kg, right? Remember that for that we need to use our what? Our find. Okay. So we can say if is number, find kg. Remember that find is case sensitive. Within this text, we close it. So if this is true, if you can find kg, then just return whatever you see there because we need it as kg, right? Otherwise, then multiply the value in this column with 0.45, I think 35 to 45, 35. So that is how we convert that to kg. Then we close it and we are good. Can you see that this one has returned 7 for this that has kg, it has returned the kg like that. So let's check for those that have pounds. Okay, so let's just pick a sample. Let's just check like this two. We'll click on OK. So can you see that they have been converted? Can you see? But they have decimal. So let's go and deal with the decimal. So we'll just come here and put the round function here. Remember that this is where the operation happened. So we'll just come here and use the round. So we'll just say round this up, whatever you get here, round this up, and okay, this is for, yeah, round will come here, will come before this. So it is rounding this up, right? So the round will come here, comma, let's say 0 because we don't need it, we don't need anything. Then we'll close the one for the if function. So we just place the round before this arithmetic operation, and this is the parenthesis for the round. Okay, and you see this is the number of digits so that you don't get confused. We click on enter so that it will round it up. So let's see what we have. Okay, so let's just try to check for, okay, let's just check this column here. Let's apply the filter alt 80 alt 80. So let's just check what we have in this column. Can you see that they've been rounded up? Okay, and we have those of kg. So what we are going to do next is that we're just going to copy and paste as value. Okay, so we just copy this and paste it on it as value. Control Alt V. Then we have V on enter. Now why did I paste as values? Because I want to find kg and replace with nothing so that everything will be just numbers. But if I do that with the underlying formula, it might not see it. Okay, because it's Excel will see it as functions. So now we have it as value. So let's now use the find and replace again. Control F, find kg, replace with nothing. Then we'll replace all. Can you see that it has worked? Can you see that it has worked? Okay. So now we can now come here and say this is the weight, and we just put the kg in bracket. So we don't have to put the kg close to the numbers again. So everything has been converted to the same format. So this format has been standardized, and we are good to go. The weight column is cleaned. So we can come here and go and put it in our main data. So we just copy this, come here, and let's just replace this with it. Okay, so it does not have any underlying formula, so we can just right click and paste like that. So we can just Control V, or we just paste like that. I need to paste it. Can you see that we are good? So the height column is cleaned, the weight column is now cleaned. Good. So let's move on to the next column that has discrepancy. Okay, so let's look at this joint column, showing the dates that they joined, right? Let's look at what we have here. So this column is actually very okay, right? It's seeing it as a date and everything is okay. The only thing you can do is if you want to change how it is appearing, all right, maybe you want to change the format, you just select everything, Control Shift down, then you go to the home and we just change it to the actual date. You can change it to short date like this and we are good to go. Okay, now this column actually contains the loan end date, the loan date, and remember that we dealt with the loan begins and loan ends when we were working with the contract column here. So if we look at this now, this column actually has the year at which the loan ended, including the day. Okay, the year and the day. So if you look at this now, it is still equivalent to the one that we added to the contract at the loan begins column. So we don't really need this column anymore. We've already dealt with it here. So we can just come here and delete this. So we just delete this and that. So now we have the value, we have the wage, we have the release clause. All of these columns have similar issues. So I'm just going to copy all three columns so that we can deal with them at a go. Control Shift. Then we'll just, select, then Shift select. Then we'll just copy this and take it to our workspace. So just paste this here. So we pasted this now. Now let's look at what they have in common. So looking at this column now, some are in millions, some are in thousands. Can you see the one that has K? They are in thousands. While the ones that have M, they are in millions. So we need to make sure that they are all in the same format. They have the same format. They are not just having M or K. They just have the right number of zeros at the end of it. So if it is 300K, we should have 300,000 with three zeros. If it is 30.5 million, we should have 30,500,000. So it's something that is really straightforward. Okay, we just want to get rid of the units, and we also want to make sure that they are expressed as numbers, right, with the correct number of zeros. And we need to get rid of this unusual character as well. So what I'm just going to do is all of them have the same unusual character. Can you see they have the same unusual character? Same with this one. Let's apply filter to this one, to Alt-A-T, Alt-A-T. Okay, so let's look at this one. They all have the same format. This one has M and K as well. Then for the wage too, I'm not sure the wage has M. Let's see. So the wage only has K. Yes, the wage only has K. But what they have in common is the fact that this unusual character is in them. So our keyboard does not have this unusual character. I'm just going to click on one and select it, Control Copy, right? Then I will come here and select all three. Then I would replace everything at once. So I'm just going to do Control F, paste that unusual character. Let me drag this up. Then I will replace all. Replace all. Can you see they have gone? Okay, they have all gone. Okay, he's still working on it. Good. So they are all gone, right? So the next thing is for us to now add the right number of zeros to this value. So for this one, the ones that have millions will be multiplied by 1 million. The ones that have thousands will be multiplied by what? 1,000. That is just it. So how do we do that? So first of all, let us get rid of the M in total. So we'll just use our find and replace again. M and replace all. Okay. So we are just left with the ones that have what? That have K. Good. So we have our criteria, which is what? Which is K. So let's just come here and let me just copy all these three, then paste them here. So for the value now, we are saying that if it contains what? K. If its number and find again, if find I mean, when you can get a particular nested function that works for you, you just keep going with it. So if you can find k within this, right, then what should you do? So this one will give us the find. Okay, so what is the value if true? That means if you can find k, what should you do? Then just multiply the value you can get. Just multiply the value associated with k, multiply it times 1000, right? Now, how do we now get the value associated with k? Remember that k still has this k. So what do? We just use our left function and say bring out the left of this, right? Now, what is the number of characters that it should find out? The number of characters is whatever number you can get before this k, right? I'm just using this as an example because this kind of value is also inside this column, right? So we are saying that find the left as long as you are not including this. How do we make sure that it does not include this? We just say the length of this character minus 1. That is number of characters that the left function will pick here. So what is it going to do? It's going to start from the left, start counting, and when it gets to the length of that minus 1, let's say this one has 4, right? So you're saying 4 minus 1. So you start counting 1, 2, 3 minus 1 minus k. So if it has 2, it will count everything, then minus k. It will just make sure that it is getting rid of the k before it does that. So I'm saying that pick the left of this, then multiply by what? 1000. 1000. Otherwise, now let's deal with the million. Otherwise, that means if all of these are not true, that means if it does not have k, then multiply this value by 1 million. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we should put multiply here, multiply by 1000 or multiply by 1 million. So let's close this and let's see what we have. So look at this now. This is 103,500,000. Can you see that this one has been converted to how we want it to be? Remember, there was m here. We just omitted the m, so it's a million. So now let's apply it to the rest. Okay. So it's not applying because of this empty column here. I'm just going to get rid of this one. Control minus and just make sure it is close to this. So let me apply it to the rest now. Good. Okay, so now let's check the ones that have thousands before now to be sure that it has been applied to it. Okay, let's just deselect everything and then pick the ones that have thousands. So let's see what we have. Let's see this one. So this should give me 40,000, right? Can you see 40,000? Can you see for the value? Don't look at this one. So we are still working with this one. Okay, so let's do Ctrl Z. And we are good. So this has been solved. So the same thing for this release too, because release also has the same issue as value, but for wage it's a bit different. Okay, so we're just going to copy the function that we have here. We'll just copy this, then we go here and paste it here. All right, so we'll just change the cell address. I'm just going to change this to D2 or C2. I mean, for the release clause, change this to C2 as well. Then same with this C2 and this as well, so that it goes to the release clause. So we are working with the release clause, right? Click on enter. I'm just basically applying the same thing to it and we are good. So let's now come back to this wage. For this wage now, so for wage now, let's see what we have in wage. So for wage we have k and we have hundreds. Can you see? So this one, what we just do is to just work with the k. So for the hundreds, we don't have to do anything to it again because it's already 750, 800. But for the one that has k, we want to multiply by 1000, right? So we'll just copy it here, we'll just paste the same function here. Then we'll have to adjust it a bit. So we'll change this one to B2 because we are working with B2. Change this to B2 as well. We are working to be the wage, don't forget. Change this to B2 again and this as well. Okay, might not even have to do this one. Okay, so now let's look at B2. For those that have k, what do we want? We want it to multiply the left by 1000, right? Which is what we already have here. Good. Now if it does not have that, then you should just return B2. You should not multiply it by 1 million. You should just return B2, because remember that the other values are just as it is. They are just hundreds. They don't have any extra to it. So just leave it at that. So I think we are good. Let's see. Good. So this is 560,000, right? So let's apply it to the rest. Can you see? So this one that is showing this green is because whenever a function is applied close to another function that has been applied to another column and it is not having the same nature, this would occur. So it's because this one, you remember what we did here and what we did here, and this one is at the middle. So this one is a bit different. That is why it's trying to see that. Are you sure you're not making a mistake? Okay. So what we just do, we should just leave it for now, because we are definitely going to be pasting as values eventually. So don't worry about that for now. So that has been solved. So we just want to bring it back here. Okay. So copy this. So we'll come here and paste as what? As values. And paste as values. Let's see what we have. Good. Everything is now perfect. So we are good. So the last column that I think has issues is we need to deal with. So we need to deal with this one. Let's see what we have here. This one actually represents ratings. This, and this. So the only issue with this one is that it's having this unusual character. Let's check the, can you see? That's the only issue. So we don't have to take it out of here and take it back. Okay, so we can just copy this unusual character with this space. Just copy this. Then we highlight the column that we want to work with. So we work with this one, and Control select this one. Control F. We just paste it here, and then we replace with nothing. So let's replace all. Okay, so it's just replacing just two. So we're just going to do the same for this one as well. Just replace and replace everything. We couldn't find anything to replace. Okay, that is because this one does not have space. Yeah, the others have space, but this one does not have space. So we just come here and remove this space. Then we replace all for this one as well. Good. So we are good to go. Let's see if we have any more columns to deal with. Okay, so we have this each column. So the issue with this each column is just the same as the value column. So this one also, some are in the hundreds and some have K at the end. So let's just copy this and take it to our workspace. So let's just paste it here. And let's think of how we can solve it. So for this now, I need to find a way to work with the ones that have dots and the ones that don't have dots. So let's look at it now. So some have dots. So we can actually use the method that we use for the wage. But the only difference is that for this one, it has the one that has 1,000 actually have dots, while some don't. But for this one, there's nothing like dots. For this wage here, there's nothing like dots, right? Everything is just whole number. Okay, so what can we do? So all we just have to do is to copy the function that this one has. Just copy this, okay? Then we'll just come here and paste it here. So let's now change the cell address. So this is I2 for everything. This is I2. This is I2 as well. I2. Then this is also I2. So we are saying that if it contains K, then bring the left after removing this K and multiply it by 1,000. Otherwise, return what you can see there, right? So click on enter. So let's apply it to the rest. What do we have? Subscribe to my channel. Okay, what do we have? And you see that it has worked. So we are good. So we just come here and copy this, and we go back to our data. Then we use our Control Alt V, use paste as values. Click on OK. Let's see. So this is what? This is hits. So there we have it, our clean data with Excel functions. Okay, do not forget to subscribe, share this video with your data friend or anybody you think that this would be helpful to. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, share my videos, and just love my videos. Okay, show love to my videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.